Boss fired me for taking my earned vacation days after 2 years without time off. I made sure the CEO found out. I hadn't taken a single vacation day in 2 years. Not one. While my co-workers jetted off to beaches and visited family, I was there every single day, keeping the wheels turning at Meridian Financial Solutions. Then I finally booked a long overdue week off to visit my sister in Colorado, and my manager Derek Williams looked me dead in the eye and said, "Clear out your desk. You're done." I'm Jessica Chen, 27, from Portland, Oregon, and this is how I made sure my boss regretted firing someone who knew where all the bodies were buried. They called me the glue at Meridian when I first started. It was a mid-sized financial consulting firm, about 200 employees crammed into a downtown office that reeked of stale coffee and broken dreams. I was fresh out of college, hungry to climb the ladder, desperate to prove myself worthy of the business degree my parents had sacrificed to pay for. My family immigrated when I was 12. My parents worked double shifts at the restaurant they managed, always tired, always stressed about money. They'd look at me with such hope in their eyes, whispering about the American dream, about how the daughter would have the white-collar life they never could. I carried that weight everywhere, the pressure to succeed not just for me, but for them. Meridian felt like my shot at making it real. I threw myself into the work with religious devotion. I believed in what we were doing, helping small businesses navigate complex financial regulations, streamlining their accounting processes. It was meaningful work that required precision, dedication, and the kind of attention to detail that came naturally to me. I was always first in, last out. I built client relationships from scratch, staying late to walk nervous small business owners through tax implications they'd never heard of. I created training materials for new hires, documented processes that existed only in people's heads, and single-handedly managed our most demanding accounts. When the company expanded into new service areas, I was the one writing the procedures, training the staff, making sure nothing fell through the cracks. Derek Williams arrived 18 months later as the new operations manager. He was all polished shoes and MBA buzzwords, the kind of guy who used synergy unironically in every meeting. He was good at schmoozing clients and impressing upper management, but he saw me as just another cog in his machine, reliable, efficient, and completely replaceable. The sacrifices started small and grew into something monstrous. The 60-hour weeks became 70, then 80. Weekends weren't mine anymore, they belonged to Meridian, spent hunched over spreadsheets and client reports while my friends were living actual lives. My personal relationships withered like plants without water. Dating became impossible when you're too exhausted to shower properly, let alone make conversation over dinner. My parents didn't understand why their successful daughter never visited anymore. "You work too much, Jess," my mom would say during our brief phone calls. But how could I explain that taking time off felt like betrayal? That Derek had made it clear that dedication was measured in hours logged, not results achieved. I missed everything that mattered. My college roommate's wedding. I watched the ceremony on Instagram stories from my office at 11 p.m. while finishing a quarterly report that absolutely couldn't wait. My grandfather's 80th birthday celebration. I sent flowers and apologies while debugging a client database that had crashed on a Friday night. My sister Emma's graduation from nursing school. I promised to visit soon, always soon, never now. Emma called me 6 months ago, her voice thick with tears. "Jess, I need you. My marriage is falling apart, and I need my sister." I wanted to drop everything, to be there for her like she'd always been there for me. But Derek had just assigned me 3 new accounts, all with impossible deadlines. "I can't leave right now, Em. Things are crazy at work." The silence on the other end of the line lasted forever. Derek thrived on this culture of constant availability. He'd send emails at midnight and expect responses within the hour. He'd schedule urgent meetings on Sundays for issues that could have waited until Monday. When I finally worked up the courage to mention work-life balance during a team meeting, he laughed it off. "Work-life balance is for people who don't want to succeed," he said, scanning the room for nods of agreement. "We're building something special here. That takes sacrifice." I sacrificed. God, how I sacrificed. I gave him my nights, my weekends, my relationships, my health. I developed insomnia from the constant stress, living on a diet of energy drinks and whatever I could grab from the vending machine between client calls. My back ached from hunching over my laptop for 14 hours straight. I forgot what my apartment looked like in daylight. The breaking point came when Derek started taking credit for my work. The streamlined onboarding process I'd spent months perfecting. He presented it to the CEO as his innovation. The client retention strategy that saved us 3 major accounts. Suddenly it was Derek's brilliant idea. I'd explain complex solutions to him in detail, watch his eyes glaze over as he pretended to understand, then listen to him regurgitate my words in leadership meetings while I sat silent in the back row. It stung every single time, like a paper cut that never healed. But I swallowed it down, convinced myself it was just part of paying dues. As long as the company succeeded, as long as my work had value, I could endure the invisibility. After all, Derek's success was the company's success, and the company's success was mine too, right? 2 years, 24 months without a single vacation day. I had accumulated 187 hours of paid time off that I'd never used, never even considered using. My accrued vacation balance was a badge of honor in Derek's eyes, proof of my unwavering commitment to the company. But it was also a growing reminder of everything I'd given up, every moment of joy I'd postponed for later. Emma's call changed everything. Her voice was different this time, not pleading, but hollow. Jess, I'm getting divorced. The papers are final next week. I'm moving to a new apartment, starting over completely. I know you're busy, but I really need you here. Just for a few days. Please. Something cracked inside my chest. My sister, my best friend, the person who'd held my hair back during college parties and talked me through panic attacks during finals week, she needed me, and I'd been too buried in spreadsheets to notice her world falling apart. I hung up and immediately opened the company portal, my hands shaking as I submitted a vacation request for the following week. 5 days. After 2 years of nothing, I was asking for 5 measly days to be there for the most important person in my life. The request sat in Derek's inbox for 3 days before he approved it with a terse comment, "Try not to make this a habit." I booked my flight to Denver, bought Emma's favorite wine, and for the first time in years, felt something resembling excitement. I was going to help my sister pack, listen to her cry, remind her how strong she was. I was going to be a human being instead of a productivity machine. The Friday before my trip, Derek called me into his office. The familiar smell of his expensive cologne mixed with the stale air conditioning made my stomach churn. He didn't look up from his computer when I walked in, just kept typing with aggressive precision. "About this vacation of yours," he said, still not making eye contact. "I've been thinking, and the timing really isn't good. We've got the Morrison account review Monday, and you're the only one who knows their system inside and out. Plus, Sarah in accounting is out sick, and we need someone to cover the payroll reconciliation." My heart started pounding. "Derek, I already bought my plane ticket. My sister. Your sister will understand. Work comes first here, Chen. You know that." He finally looked at me, his expression cold and businesslike. "Cancel the trip. We'll talk about rescheduling when things calm down." Things never calmed down. There was always another crisis, another urgent deadline, another reason why I couldn't be spared. I stood there in his office, thinking about Emma alone in her empty apartment, thinking about all the moments I'd already missed, all the ways I'd let work consume everything that made life worth living. "No," I said quietly. "I'm taking my vacation days. They're mine. I earned them." Derek's face hardened. "Excuse me." I said no. "I'm going to Colorado. The Morrison account can wait 3 days, and someone else can handle payroll. I haven't taken a break in 2 years, Derek. 2 years. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Derek's jaw worked soundlessly, his face cycling through surprise, anger, and something that looked almost like betrayal. As if my insistence on basic human rights was a personal affront to everything he built. "Pack your things," he said finally, his voice flat and eerily calm. "You're done here." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What?" "You heard me. Clear out your desk. HR will escort you out." He picked up his phone, not even looking at me anymore. "Sarah, yeah, send someone up to collect Jessica Chen's access badge and laptop. She's no longer with the company." The words hit me like a physical blow. 2 years of my life, of sleepless nights and missed moments and sacrificed relationships, and this was how it ended. Not with gratitude or even regret, but with cold dismissal, as if I was a malfunctioning piece of equipment that had outlived its usefulness. "Derek, you can't be serious. Over 5 vacation days. After everything you've what?" His voice rose slightly, and I caught a glimpse of the anger beneath his professional veneer. "You think you're irreplaceable. You think this company can't function without precious Jessica Chen. You're delusional." HR arrived faster than seemed possible, Linda from Employee Relations, looking uncomfortable but determined, carrying the dreaded cardboard box that every fired employee knows by sight. She avoided my eyes as she spoke, reciting what was clearly a rehearsed script about final paychecks and COBRA benefits. My co-workers stared as I packed my few personal belongings. The coffee mug Emma had sent me for my birthday. The small succulent plant I'd somehow kept alive despite the office's hostile environment. A framed photo of my parents at their restaurant's grand opening, pride shining in their faces. Everything else, the awards, the thank you notes from grateful clients, the evidence of 2 years of extraordinary dedication, belonged to Meridian. It always had. Jessica from the accounting department appeared at my cubicle, tears in her eyes. "This is insane," she whispered. "Everyone knows you're the best thing about this place." Derek's lost his mind. But Jessica didn't speak up during the awkward all-hands meeting Derek called that afternoon. None of them did. They were scared, and I understood that. In corporate America, loyalty flows upward, never down. Speaking up for a fired colleague is just volunteering to be next. The elevator ride down felt endless, like descending into some corporate purgatory. Linda walked me to the parking garage, her professional sympathy as hollow as everything else about this place. "I'm sorry it ended this way, Jessica. You're a talented professional, and I'm sure you'll land on your feet." I sat in my car for 20 minutes, shaking with adrenaline and disbelief. The parking garage was suddenly foreign territory, a place where I no longer belonged. 2 years of arriving early and staying late, and now I was just another former employee with a story about getting screwed over by management. The worst part wasn't the firing itself, it was the casual cruelty of it. Derek hadn't just terminated my employment, he'd made it clear that my dedication meant nothing, that my sacrifice had been worthless. I was replaceable, forgettable, just another name on a spreadsheet. The first week was a haze of rage and self-doubt. I called Emma, sobbing into the phone about how I'd finally tried to prioritize her and lost my job because of it. She was furious, not at me, but at Derek, at the whole toxic system that had consumed 2 years of my life and spat me out the moment I asserted a basic right. "Come anyway," she said. "You don't have a job to get back to. Stay as long as you want." So I went to Colorado, but instead of helping Emma celebrate her fresh start, I spent most of the week alternating between manic job searching and staring at her ceiling, paralyzed by the magnitude of starting over. My savings account was pathetic. I'd always assumed my job was secure, that the next raise was just around the corner. Now I was facing months of unemployment with barely enough money to cover rent. Emma forced me to go hiking on my last day there, dragging me up a mountain trail despite my protests that I needed to send out more resumes. "You've been buried in that laptop all week," she said. "The job applications will still be there when we get back." At the summit, looking out over the Rockies, something shifted. The constant knot of anxiety in my chest loosened for the first time in months. I wasn't thinking about Derek or Meridian or my uncertain future. I was just breathing, just being present in a moment of genuine peace. "You know what's funny?" I said to Emma as we started the hike back down. "I don't miss it. I thought I would, but I don't miss the stress or the impossible deadlines or Derek's condescending emails. I miss the clients, but I don't miss the job." When I got back to Portland, I started going through my old files, not for job applications but just to organize my thoughts. I opened my personal laptop for the first time in months and found folders full of work I'd done from home, research, client analyses, process improvements that I'd developed on my own time because I cared about doing good work. That's when I found it, the comprehensive audit I'd conducted of Meridian's financial practices 6 months ago. Derek had asked me to review our internal procedures after a client raised questions about billing transparency. What I'd found was a pattern of questionable charges, not illegal exactly, but ethically murky at best. Clients were being billed for consultation time that was actually spent on administrative tasks. Junior staff hours were being marked up as senior consultant rates. Most damning of all, Derek had been approving charges for services that were never actually provided, padding invoices with vague line items like strategic analysis and market research. I brought my concerns to Derek in a private meeting, presenting the evidence carefully and professionally. He'd listened with that same glazed expression he always wore when I explained complex issues, then dismissed my findings as overly cautious interpretation of standard industry practices. "Don't rock the boat, Chen," he'd said. "These clients are happy, our revenue is up, and everyone's getting paid. Sometimes you have to trust that the people above you know what they're doing." I dropped it then, convinced myself that Derek's MBA and management experience trumped my ethical concerns. But now, staring at the evidence on my laptop screen, I realized I'd been complicit in fraud through my silence. My detailed documentation of billing irregularities wasn't just research, it was evidence. The magnitude of what I was looking at hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about my wrongful termination anymore. This was about a pattern of defrauding clients, and I had the receipts. I spent the next 3 days double-checking every number, every date, every suspicious charge. My training in financial analysis served me well. I could track the money trails, identify the patterns, build an airtight case that even Derek's MBA couldn't talk his way out of. The evidence was overwhelming. Over 18 months, Meridian had systematically overbilled clients by an estimated $340,000. It wasn't the kind of massive fraud that makes headlines, but it was steady, deliberate, and completely indefensible. Derek had turned billing irregularities into a profit center, and he'd been doing it under the noses of both clients and upper management. I found a corporate attorney through my college alumni network, Maria Gonzalez, a sharp woman who specialized in whistleblower cases. I laid out my story and my evidence, watching her eyebrows rise higher with each document I shared. "This is substantial," she said when I finished. "Both the wrongful termination and the billing fraud. Companies can't fire employees for taking legally earned vacation time, especially not when there's evidence of retaliation." "But Jessica, are you prepared for what comes next? This won't be quiet. Derek will fight back, and it's going to get ugly." I thought about Emma, about my parents, about all the small business owners who trusted Meridian with their financial futures and were being systematically cheated. I thought about Derek's smug face when he fired me, his casual dismissal of my 2 years of dedication. "Let it get ugly," I said. "I'm tired of being quiet." Maria drafted a comprehensive complaint to the State Attorney General's office, complete with my detailed documentation of the billing fraud. But the real masterstroke was her suggestion to file a simultaneous complaint with Meridian's biggest client, Morrison Industries, the very account Derek had used to justify canceling my vacation. "Morrison represents about 30% of Meridian's revenue," Maria explained. "If they pull their contract, it's game over. And they have a right to know that they've been systematically overcharged for services they never received." The beauty of it was the timing. Morrison's quarterly contract review, the one Derek had been so desperate to prepare for, was scheduled for the following Tuesday. My complaint would land in their legal department exactly 48 hours before Derek had to sit across from them and justify Meridian's billing practices. But I wasn't done. Maria helped me craft a detailed letter to Meridian's CEO, Richard Hoffman, a man I'd only seen in company-wide emails and quarterly presentations. The letter laid out everything: Derek's abusive management style, my wrongful termination, and most importantly, the evidence of systematic billing fraud that was happening under his leadership. "Hoffman built this company from the ground up," Maria said. "His reputation is everything to him. When he realizes that Derek has been operating a fraud scheme that could destroy everything Hoffman has worked for, there's going to be hell to pay." The morning we sent the letters, I felt a mix of terror and exhilaration unlike anything I'd ever experienced. For 2 years, I'd been the perfect employee, silent, compliant, grateful for whatever scraps of recognition came my way. Now I was unleashing a storm that would reshape everything. My phone rang at 7:23 a.m. the next day. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. "Jessica Chen." The voice was crisp, professional, unfamiliar. "Yes. This is Richard Hoffman, CEO of Meridian Financial Solutions. I think we need to talk." The meeting took place in a conference room I'd never seen before, high up in Meridian's building with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Portland. Richard Hoffman was smaller than he appeared in company photos, but his presence filled the room. With him was the head of legal, the VP of operations, and someone I didn't recognize who was introduced simply as an external consultant. Derek was nowhere to be seen. "Miss Chen," Hoffman began, his voice carefully controlled, "your letter raised some very serious allegations about practices within our organization. I want you to know that we're taking this matter extremely seriously." I sat across from him, Maria beside me, trying to project confidence while my heart hammered against my ribs. These were the people who controlled my industry reputation, who could make sure I never worked in finance again if they chose to. But I had truth on my side, and 2 years of meticulous documentation. "Before we discuss your termination," Hoffman continued, "I need to understand the full scope of what you've uncovered regarding our billing practices." For the next hour, I walked them through everything. The inflated charges, the phantom services, the systematic pattern of overbilling that had been happening under Derek's supervision. I had spreadsheets, email chains, client files, a complete paper trail that painted a picture of deliberate fraud. The external consultant, who I realized was a forensic accountant, asked sharp, detailed questions that proved she understood exactly what she was looking at. The head of legal took notes frantically, his expression growing graver with each revelation. "Miss Chen," Hoffman said when I finished, "how long have you known about these irregularities?" 6 months, I admitted. I brought my concerns to Derek Williams at the time, but he dismissed them as standard industry practices. "And you didn't escalate your concerns?" This was the moment I'd been dreading. "No, sir. I should have, but I trusted Derek's judgment. I was wrong to stay silent. Hoffman nodded slowly. What you've presented here could destroy this company. Our reputation, our client relationships, everything we've built over 20 years. You understand that? Yes, sir. I also understand that our clients trusted us with their money, and we betrayed that trust. Someone had to speak up. The room fell silent. I could hear the hum of air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic 17 floors below. These people were calculating, not just the financial cost of the fraud, but the cost of covering it up versus the cost of making it right. Derek Williams has been terminated, Hoffman said finally. Effective this morning. We're conducting a full audit of every account he oversaw, and we'll be making restitution to affected clients. The district attorney's office has been notified. I felt a surge of vindication so strong it was almost physical. Derek was gone. The man who'd fired me for trying to take 5 vacation days, who'd stolen credit for my work and dismissed my dedication as worthless, he was finished. As for your wrongful termination, Hoffman continued, we're prepared to offer a settlement that includes reinstatement with full back pay, compensation for damages, and a formal apology. We'd also like to discuss a promotion to senior financial analyst, reporting directly to our VP of operations instead of middle management. It was everything I could have hoped for, and more. Vindication, financial compensation, career advancement. Derek's downfall had opened doors I never could have imagined. But as I sat there looking at these powerful people who suddenly saw me as valuable, I realized something had changed inside me. Mr. Hoffman, I said, I appreciate the offer, but I won't be coming back to Meridian. His eyebrows rose. Miss Chen, this is a generous package. It is, and I'm grateful. But the truth is, I don't want to work for a company that allowed this culture to flourish. Derek didn't operate in a vacuum. He had supervisors, oversight, management structures that should have caught this long before a terminated employee had to blow the whistle. I stood up, surprising myself with how steady I felt. I'll accept compensation for my wrongful termination, but I won't be returning. I'm starting my own consulting practice, working directly with small businesses to help them navigate exactly the kinds of financial challenges that Meridian was supposed to solve ethically. 3 months later, I was sitting in my home office, actually my dining room, but it was mine, when Emma called with news. Morrison Industries had not only terminated their contract with Meridian but had signed with my new consulting firm. They'd been so impressed with the integrity I'd shown in exposing the fraud that they wanted to work with someone they could trust completely. You know what's funny? Emma said during our video call. Derek thought he was firing a replaceable employee, but he actually created his biggest competitor. She was right. My client list grew every month, built on referrals from business owners who appreciated working with someone who put their interests first. I made less money than I would have climbing Meridian's corporate ladder, but I worked reasonable hours, took real vacations, and never again missed the moments that mattered. The best part came 6 months later, when I got an email from Derek himself. He'd been barred from the financial services industry and was working at a car dealership outside Seattle. The subject line was simple: I was wrong. I never replied. Some endings don't need words, they just need to be lived, one ethical choice at a time. My parents finally understood what I'd been building when they saw the newspaper article about the Meridian scandal. We're proud of you, my dad said simply. Not for the business, but for doing the right thing. That's all I'd ever wanted to hear. The American dream isn't about working yourself to death for someone else's success, it's about building something authentic, something that reflects your values. It took getting fired for taking vacation days to figure that out, but some lessons are worth the price.